Yo, welcome back. And so today we're going to be reviewing the top 5 best TFT set 8.5 comps coming out of PBE and onto the live patch. So I am joined with Max Gur, and he is going to help me talk you through these comps.
Well, I'm just a learner. I know nothing. I'm here to question the status quo and learn.
So I am doing this video for my viewers to help them to learn the set, leading up to my Wyxip Wipeout tournament, which is going to be held on the 22nd of April at 4 PM BST, and is sponsored by Sheep.
Awesome.
So the very first comp, Max, we have today is REROLL Laser Core. So there's a lot of overlap here from set 8 at the moment already. You've still got your Ashe, your Renekton, Vi, all the units are still the same. But with Laser Core having a little bit of a tweak to it with how it operates, with it changing from a 3-5-7 trait to a 3-4-5-6, it slightly changed how you play Laser Core. And at the moment on PBE, we're seeing this specific version of Laser Core come off really strong. It's absolutely oppressive in the early game, with the units such as Renekton and Blitz being super good tanks, and Ashe dealing the damage out back.
Are the hero augments still like all the? Are they still a thing? They're not changing, are they?
Hero augments are still a thing. A lot of different units have different hero augments now. For example, Yasuo. Yasuo's carry augment has changed. It used to be he got a lot of healing, a lot of Omnivamp. But this has now changed, so he now has a hero augment that essentially enlarges his spell. It's absolutely trash. Don't play it. Unless it gets a buff, don't play it. But Yasuo's augment, it now basically makes his spell bigger, which sounds more like a support augment to me, but there you go.
Some of them have changed.
Some have changed, some have remained the same.
Right,
exactly.
Awesome. I love reading.
As well as that, you can also sub out the 4-brawler version for a bit of an admin and short shot version. This is more if you 2-star your Renekton and Blitzcrank really early, so you've already got that beefy front line, but you just want a little bit more damage to, if you haven't, say, got the items, the damage items yet. So you can include Camille. A note here is obviously you're wanting to play this route if you have a good admin for it. So you're looking for things like attack speed and attack damage, AD. So yeah, any questions with that?
I guess just like if you can't get BIS for Ashe, you just go for like standard AD type items or attack speed items.
Yeah, so Ashe is a fairly flexible unit when it comes to her items. Attack speed, attack damage, you could be looking at, say, throwing a Last Whisper on her as well. There's a lot of different items she likes. Deathblade, i.e. she'll take almost anything AD related, basically. Throw a bit of healing on her if you want. Gunblade's always nice. The items you can see on screen aren't necessarily BIS. I've just sort of thrown them on there to indicate that these are good items. So you've got a bit of AD, you've got a bit of healing, and a bit of damage amplification from the Giant Slayer.
Also, are any items changing, do you know, like significantly? Are they only being reworked? Okay.
No big item changes. A few have been tweaked, but they're more or less the same. Nothing that anyone below, say, Diamond needs to even think about, to be honest. Just continue on. If it looks like it works, throwing AD items on AD champs, it probably will. Now, moving on from the late game board into the from the early game board even into the end game board, we've got so we're going down this brawler and admin route now, because Warwick, being brawler, admin, and laser core, he's a very flexible unit. So both of the two previous comps that I showed you, the early game ports, will lead quite nicely into this, with Warwick basically being a replacement for that Lee Sin, I believe it was in the first one, and the Camille in the second route. So it's a bit of a... Warwick sort of embodies all of those, if that makes sense. Obviously, you want to be rolling early, though, for this comp. So this is a reroll comp, as I highlighted at the start. You're looking to 3-star your Renekton, 3-star your Ashe, 3-star your Blitzcrank. So you want to be rolling this comp at level 5. Maybe even level 4 if you've already got a few. You want to take that early lose streak and turn it into a really strong mid-game board, which you can sort of just sit on, and then you can cap it out later once you've stabilized.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Brilliant. Next up, we have another reroll comp. So I've included 2 reroll comps in this little breakdown for you guys. The second of which is reroll Infinity.
Just in case you already hate yourself.
Yeah,
just
indeed.
Watch the world burn and join the madding masses.
You got it.
Sheep.
Of sheep, yes. Followers. But
not, well, anyway.
Not sheep, but
you're the sheep. You're the sheep. Well, you're the sheep.
The sheep. Exactly.
Anyway, pray tell what
So,
I'm about to expect in the
this
worst.
is a bit of reroll Infinity. It's more of a reroll Lucian, to be honest, with basically you just playing Lucian's traits. You have INFINITEAM, Renegade, and Admin active. You could throw in an Ezreal as well instead of this Sivir for to take out INFINITEAM, but then put in Ezreal, like I said, which would give you quick draw. You could also do that instead of Camille if you have a bad admin. Again, this is very admin dependent. At this stage, if you're playing reroll Lucian, you're looking at an AP admin trait if you can. Mana's probably not bad, but AP is really where you want to be aiming.
Okay. What does INFINITEAM actually do, and what does Lucian do?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So INFINITEAM is a brand new trait to 8.5, where when you play 3 or more INFINITEAMs, a portal will appear on your board. And if you put an INFINITEAM champion in that portal, it will duplicate them. So it will basically create a copy of that champion, and it will be slightly less powerful. So I believe at 3 INFINITEAM, it's 40% health and 40% damage. And it automatically equip items. So if you have 1 augment, it will equip 1 item. If you have 2 augments, it will equip 2 items. And these items tend to be not perfect, not best in slot, but they'll be good items. So Lucian will have AP items. Silas will have tank items. Exactly. It's lucky gloves. Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
So it's a really, really strong. It's really strong at the moment. Very prevalent on PBE, winning a lot of matches. It's in the mid game, early game, and late game as well.
So you just put your tank. You just put your carry in it.
Exactly. So you could put your Lucian in it if it's in the back line. You could put your Pantheon in it in the front line.
So the portal's random.
The portal's random. It could appear anywhere on the board. Exactly. It changes from game to game.
I see.
It's a small thing to note. It's the same for everyone. So if you have yours in the back left, everyone has theirs in the back left.
It's like a what do we call it? The spotlight.
Socialite spotlight.
Yeah.
Exactly. You got it.
This
is if you don't hit your Lucians and your Sivirs and your... If you're not hitting your 3 stars, you can sort of fold off into a slightly different version. So this is the early game for INFINITEAM if you're not going to reroll it. So if you don't feel like rerolling, you don't feel comfortable with that, or if you don't hit Lucians, for example, if you're only hitting a few Lucians, you can sort of peel off into this version, which the core comp is on the left. So you've got your Riven and your Shen as your front line, and your Lucian and Sivir as your back line. And you can either play 2 different versions alongside your core comp. You could either play LeBlanc and Blitzcrank for a bit Bruiser with the Riven with Blitzcrank, and LeBlanc to apply that admin, and Hacker with Shen. Again, this is very admin dependent. If you're getting a good admin out of this, definitely you want to be looking at that Blitzcrank LeBlanc version. If you haven't got such a good admin, you can throw in an Ashe for to get a sure shot with your Sivir, and you could throw in a Morgana at the back for some shred, or a Rammus up front for a bit more tankiness. So throwing in a random threat and an Ashe for some more damage.
All reliable.
Absolutely.
Cool.
This then leads into the endgame board, which is 5 INFINITEAM. So there are currently 6 INFINITEAM units, so you can't actually hit the 7 INFINITEAM chase trait without a SPAT currently.
Wait, is it? Yeah, okay. It is a spattable item. It's not.
It is a spattable item. It is a sword and a spat replacing laser core from set 8. So that's something to note, is you can no longer make a laser core spat as well. This is your endgame board, with Ultimate Ezreal probably being your AD carry if you have AD items. If you have AP items, you want to be playing them on Twisted Fate. You can sort of flex it either way. Both are good. Your best bet is Ultimate Ezreal if you can itemize him. He's your #1 choice.
So you're saying just hit.
Just hit. Exactly.
Roll at level 8 and just kind of hit.
Roll at level 8 and just hit. Something I should preface actually as well is whenever you see these legendary items, legendary units even, they tend to be replaceable. So with Ezreal, you can throw in another INFINITEAM unit. I believe I have taken out Lucian. I've taken out Lucian here. So you can play your items on Sivir while you wait and get a replacement Sivir, for example. Or you could play another short shot instead to match with your Sivir and play the items on
oh shit, short shot is 3, 4, 5 as well now.
Exactly, yeah. So you could go level 9 and play another short shot as well if you feel your board is strong enough at any point. Obviously, Fiddle being a threat isn't actually adding anything to your team in terms of traits. So you could replace Fiddle with basically anyone you really feel. Maybe throw in a random duelist, maybe throw in another short shot, as you say, because then it's a 3 trait instead of a 2.
Alright, cool.
If you happen to hit the spat, 7 INFINITEAM is really strong. You want to be playing your spat on a 2-cost legendary if you can get one. Again, if you don't, it's not the end of the world. But throwing a random 2-cost legendary and getting a 90%, because 7 INFINITEAM is a 90% equivalent of the unit. Yeah. Getting a 90% equivalent of a 2-star legendary with 3 Lucky Glove items is kind of insane.
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
And you'd be able to get 2 of those if you got 2 spats, for example. Maybe throw your Ezreal in the one at the back and your Fiddle in the one at the front, or if you have 2 front ones, you can throw Shen and Fiddle in. You get the idea. It's very flexible, and if you can get one on a 2-star Fiddle, beautiful, really good.
Okay, cool. This doesn't seem like the kind of comp which will be always contested and make me want to put my balls in a blender.
Trust me, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. But INFINITEAM it's quite a fun and unique comp, but it will be very contested, especially right at the start of the set. So be warned.
Yeah. All right. Next question: how do you get to level 89? Is that a new augment, or is it like a?
Yeah, it's level up. Level up, level 80, I guess. No, it's level 8 or 9. My theory behind that was if you're level 8, you don't play Lee Sin. If you're level 9, Lee Sin's a nice throw-in. You could also throw in another random 2-star legendary. Take an Urgot, for example, as well.
Okay. Well, obviously, if you can't go level 89, you know.
Oof, do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Spellslinger, Twisted Fate, and Nico. Let me preface this one before I go too in deep. I have added a Gadgeting Spat to the traits. You would not normally have Gadgeting active. I just thought that I would point out that Gadgeting is a really good trait. Don't shy away from Gadgeting if you're trying to play this comp. You won't normally have it activated, but just because you're playing Spellslinger and Star Guardian doesn't make Gadgeting bad, if that makes sense, as an augment. Yeah. It's not something a lot of players would notice, but picking up that Gadgeting Spat, getting you a really nice item, or even a Heart Spat as well to pair with the Syndra or other Heart unit that you want as well in the late game. But Gadgeting can really help you push through that early game as well.
Yeah, so what kind of... So wait, who are we itemizing here? Nico or Twisted Fate?
There's 2 different routes you could take it. So Twisted Fate, especially because he's getting so much AP from this Spellslinger, Twisted Fate wants a bit of attack speed. So if you're getting a lot of bows, throw maybe a Static Shiv on him, throw a Gwynsu's on him, that sort of thing. If you're getting a Shojin and JG and whatnot, you can look at itemizing Nico. There's always the additional fun little side trick of itemizing Nunu. if you hit an early Nunu. Yeah, we'll see how that goes though, and especially with Syndra's new buffs as well, she could be interesting.
Okay. Wait, Syndra got buffs?
Yeah,
Just
Syndra
briefly.
does a lot more damage now. So
Oh, cool.
You never know. Maybe we'll be seeing some Syndra carry around. I'm not convinced myself, but you never know. We'll see what happens.
All right, cool.
This is the early game board. You're looking at getting some Gadgettine, some Brawler, Defender Heart. This is just an example of many different boards that can lead into that endgame board. You could also play around Star Guardian. If you get a Rel, for example, on the front line, pair that with a Poppy. That's a nice, strong front line as well. There's a lot of different comps you can play around with here. This is just my example of one that you could play.
All right, cool.
Just on a quick note as well, the main thing I'm doing with these early game boards is trying to save some HP. At the moment, with the HP changes, that's a really big thing. If you can save as much HP in the early game, even if you're on a lose streak, just saving that little bit extra HP can make a massive difference right at the end. It can be the difference between a 4th and a 7th. Sometimes 2 HP, that's all it takes.
Okay, cool.
JHIN Renegades. Now this is a comp I'm really excited about. It was really underperforming at the start, but JHIN's had a bit of a tweak. He's had a bit of a buff. He's been shown a bit of love by Mortdog, and he's now performing not brilliantly, but good enough that I'm still excited about this comp. Throw an IE on JHIN, throw a Last Whisper on him, throw a Giant Slayer on him. He still needs that triple damage, unfortunately, at the moment.
Yeah.
I wish he was in a position where you could play just double damage and a healing, but really he needs triple damage right now with the position he's in. This front line comes together really nicely, and Zac as a bonus unit is really good. Something you must note is Riftwalker. So another new trait, Riftwalker. Riftwalker summons, when you get 3 Riftwalker, it summons Zac. And what Zac does is he takes stay with me here, the bottom trait of the nearest Riftwalker to Zac.
You lost me at Riftwalker.
I lost you at Riftwalker, that's a good start. So Zac is, for example, here on this board, Zac is closest to JHIN. So the 3 Riftwalker units are JHIN, Vex, and Pike. So Zac is closest to JHIN rather than Vex or Pike. JHIN is a Renegade as well as a Riftwalker, right?
Yeah.
So Zac is now also a Renegade because he's closest to JHIN. If you placed him closest to Vex, Zac would become a mascot, and if you place him closest to Pike, he would become a hacker.
I see. Interesting.
So Pike is a hacker, Vex is a mascot. That's another branch that you could go down here is Vex reroll, playing sort of round the 4 or 6 mascots, depending on how deep down that mascot tree you go. But Vex reroll's looking really strong now as well, so that's another one to note.
Yeah.
This is the early game board. Now, I say early game with a little bit of quotations here because I know I'm showing a level 7 board. At the same time, I feel that I am validated in doing this because when you're going for this JHIN endgame board, if I flick back to it quickly, look at how many 4 costs and 5 costs and 3 costs there are. You've only got Camille and Pike that are 2 costs, and you haven't got a single 1 cost.
Roll.
So you're not going to be rolling at all in the early game. Your end game is all about your end game. So you've got your Pike and your Camille in this board to try and help that transition, make that transition a little bit easier. But you're wanting to replace your front line, get that Blitz out, get that Silas out, get that Shen out as soon as you can for Alistair, Echo, Viego. But in order to do that, you have to push level 7 as quickly as possible to get those odds on the Echo and Viego, especially, and JHIN, of course.
So it's probably just like a early game loss streak.
Early game loss streak depends.
Fast 8th.
Fast 8. Exactly. But absolutely, you're wanting to push 7 as quickly as possible to get your odds on those 4 cost units. Once you feel like you're stable, then you push 8 and you get this final board together that I showed you originally.
Alright, cool.
And the final board that I'm going to be looking at today is obviously threats. So threats are a really interesting one at the moment. They're not performing as well as they have done in the past. So last set, you could basically, at some points, just play threats. You just play threat reroll. You just turn up, you buy your Ramus, you buy your... It's
you
just
turn up, you sniff your glue, you open Mobilytics, and you fucking go on autopilot for the next 40 minutes.
Literally, and you take a free top 3. Like,
You enter the monotonous fucking grind and just melt your brain.
Exactly.
Anyway.
You understand perfectly, I see. However, this set, they haven't been performing quite as well. But I thought it would still be worth noting that if you are feeling like you're being contested a lot on one of your other comps, so you enter a game, you're sat there, you really high roll a laser core start, but all of a sudden 2 other people are playing laser core and they hit because that's how TFT works. They hit, you don't. You can
yeah,
always,
true. That's how TFT works.
You can always pivot off into a bit of threats. You've got Belveth for the AD, you've got Asol for the AP carry. You've got a bit of everything in there. You've even got Morgana for the Shred as the new person. Aatrox is a really nice tank at the moment. Throw a Protector's Vow on him, throw a Warm-Up, throw Redemption on him. Great tank. You've obviously got Fiddle and Urgot still being the oppressive 5 costs that they always have been with their massive CCs. It's a nice board at the moment. Plus, you've got Vel'Koz removed, which is a really nice change. That sort of makes threats feel a bit nicer because you're not, especially if you get High Roller, you're not going to hit 5 Vel'Koz shops with your loaded dice, which always felt horrible because I know that happened to me a couple of times.
Hopefully makes it feel a bit nicer to play against as well.
Yeah, and Vel'Koz not one-shotting your backline tank for backline carry for no reason. Yeah, so threats aren't a comp you're going to be going into a game looking to play, but they're a really easy out if you're not sure where you're going and you've got random items that don't feel like they belong with any individual comp. Belveth, obviously you throw your AD items on, Asol your AP, as I said, tank items on Aatrox. Yeah, not one that you want to be funneling, but worth noting that it is a strong enough comp to be sort of getting you those top 5s, rescuing you essentially. It's a rescue.
Top 5. Yes, the perfect comp to be stuck in eternal purgatory that is gold.
Perfect. Early game for threats. Just whatever the hell you play.
Yeah, all of them.
All of
them.
them.
This is the comp you go and you go to level 89.
Yeah, the early game Fiddlesticks is a real classic, I find.
Yeah.
My point being that you can play anything into threats. It's more of a jumble mashup. If you don't know where you're going to end up and your board feels like it has no direction, go threats. Just press the D key, click anything that says threat, and you should be forming a good comp. It won't be overpowered. It'll be good.
Just so long as you don't expect your loved ones to speak to you for the next 2 months.
What's a loved one? I'm a TFT player.
Yeah, so true. Nothing to worry about there.
A quick note as well is your favourite teams from the past set are still going to be there. Anima Squad with your Bane carry, MF carry as well is obviously still there. Your only change in this comp would be Garen instead of Sejuani, just for that bit of CC. He's obviously a defender instead of a bruiser this time, but the same principle applies. It's a bit more tankiness essentially. Yeah, your old comps are still going to be there as long as they haven't lost many vital units. Obviously, a few units have disappeared, but there are going to be old comps still around. If you're just trying to get into set 8.5, but you played a bit of set 8, try and find some of those comps that you felt comfortable with back in set 8, and hopefully that will help you ease into the set a bit more. Playing some Anima Squad, and then maybe you see your opponent playing some INFINITEAM, and then you can learn by seeing what your opponents play as well.
I'm glad to see this wasn't patched out. I'm glad to see Riot is still dedicated to the worst time possible for the human experience.
You seem to have a very positive
which are so
outlook.
rare nowadays. Sometimes games just don't make you want to blow your foot off with a shotgun anymore, and so I'm glad to see that Mordog is still thoroughly
He's maintaining
on that train.
He's consistent, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that one thing.
And so my final slide is, I know we've already looked at threats.
Yeah, shocker.
I know we've already
I've
looked at
been in this
threats.
place before.
But the flexible units, these are the units where you go 9. You're not really sure who you want to put in. You're sat and your comp feels like it's good enough, but it's just missing that little bit. So you can throw in an ASOL, for example, if you haven't got a Sunfire or Morellos. If you're needing that anti-heal, ASOL's a really nice unit for that. As with the last set as well. Morgana for Shred and Sunder, so if you're missing that Last Whisper or Ionic Spark or Static Shiv, you can always go for Morgana to apply that to their front line. She's a really strong unit at the moment, also applying a bit of a 1.5 second stun, I believe it is, to 2 units at a time, which is kind of nuts really for a 3-cost unit.
Yeah, that's actually crazy.
But yeah, so that's a really interesting one. Velvet, if you feel like you're lacking damage a bit, if your team feels like it's lacking a bit of tankiness, throw in an Aatrox or Rammus. And Fiddlesticks and Urgot, as always, belong in basically every comp. If you can find a way to get rid of another unit for a Fiddlesticks and Urgot, it's almost certainly going to make your team stronger.
Cool. Well, that was a fun little trip to TFT Kindergarten.
Exactly. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed, and yeah. Good luck in set 8.5. Good luck in your grinds. What's your target, Max?
I want to get back to Plat before Wyxip Wipeout.
Plat before Wyxip Wipeout. All right.
Yeah,
I look forward
which is
to
like
it then.
a week after it. What? A week after it drops?
No, it's a
2 weeks.
month.
2 weeks.
It's a month.
A month? What?
Yeah, it's on the 22nd of the 4th.
Oh shit! All right. Yeah. Well, that's easy then.
Well, I look forward to it. But yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed. And that is my quick little intro into set 8.5 comps. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.